Welcome to Little Birdie Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Heathcote. I'm joined by Samantha, Jane, Todd, and we've got a special guest in the show today, Mikey Knowles.
How we doing?
Build Your Incredible on Facebook or Mikey Knowles 1 with a K on Insta. Build Your Incredible. This guy, Mikey Knowles, SJT, is a full-time sports pro punter syndicate manager in the UK turned high-performance coach.
See, that blows my mind. I'm dying to know why the turn.
Well, I started out in sports betting in London, working for Sporting Index, and I went on my own. I thought that was my plan, and I went into a syndicate, set it up, and we took it to about 7 or 8 of us. And there's always a point where you think, okay, when I went from 4 to 8, this should get easier, and it actually got harder, and it was harder to get that much volume down on the sports I was doing, which was quite difficult to get on rugby league, rugby union. And for me, it was always a bit of a means to an end. And I wanted to do, I thought, right, if I can make my money in gambling and I love my golf, I'll get out, do something like golf coaching or performance coaching. So I love the challenge of the gambling, but it was never, I didn't want it to be the only thing I ever did. So I did it for about 15 years and I thought I've had a good stint and I want to get out. And yeah.
Of course. It's sort of everyone's dream to be like a pro punter. It sounds like the life, but it really is a very taxing.
The pressure.
And anytime you're betting, I was bookmaking, so it's different, but it's very much the same sort of thing. And the pressure is immense. I mean, you come home after a day at the races and you're absolutely
exhausted.
Yeah, you're exhausted. So I can completely understand you there.
Yeah, I think it was lucky that I did it when I didn't have that many. I didn't have like a mortgage. I could just live at my mum and dad's. So I started when I was 22, 23. And then when I built up, it didn't feel as though there was that much pressure. And for me, it was never really about the money. That was just kind of how you kept score, which sounds stupid, but that was just like, it was like if you win a football match or we had a good weekend, we had a bad weekend. And the more pressure came when I brought in my friends, because I brought my friends in to help me from Halifax in Yorkshire, and there was like 6 or 7 of them, and you started the year and it's like, we need to win 200 or 300 grand
to pay for everyone's wages. You're a small business owner, really.
Pretty much. I mean, everyone just got a cut of the winnings, obviously for tax reasons. There was no wages, just in case anyone was listening.
No, we're in Australia now. The UK government won't chase you.
But yeah, for sure, it was definitely a lot of pressure there. And one year, I think after 2012, we'd just gone up to seven of us, and 5 months into the year, our year started at the start of the season, we were 20 grand down on top of the fact there were 7 of us. So we managed to turn that around and actually made some decent money that year. And then the next years we had our best 2 years and ended up in Vegas both times. We kind of hit our bonus level and we ended up in Vegas and then San Francisco and San Diego. But it would have all been, if we hadn't turned it round, at that point it was New Year's Eve and I didn't even know when it went 12 o'clock because I was just sat at my computer doing rugby stats and then it was like, it's 1 a.m. Because I thought if I don't turn this round, I've got all my mates involved and they've quit all the jobs. I've got a kind of commitment to them. So yeah, there was a little bit of pressure there, but thankfully Tom came to the party. He was one of the lads on cricket and yeah, we managed to turn it around. So yeah, it was big.
Yeah, incredible. We've got the US Open golf this week, and so Mike's got some really good golf stories, so we'll touch on them a little bit later. And you've landed on your feet since you've come to Australia. You're a member at Kingston Heath, and I think that's where Dan Andrews is a member, or
currently
a member. Gee, the sentiment around Dan and what he's doing at the moment for golf must be wearing a little bit thin out at Kingston Heath. Do you reckon they'll let him back in the gates?
I think they'll let him back in, but I probably think he might need a helmet. I think he might struggle to find a summer foursomes partner. But yeah, I mean, look, he's obviously just doing his job, and it's not a job that anyone would really want, but he's got some interesting points of view on it. So yeah, very cautious. I think when the health officials are saying that you're being a bit cautious, then you probably are being a bit cautious. But
gosh, you and Dan would have to be some of the youngest members there. Every time I go there, it's like the flag's at half mast. It's quite sad, but it's an elderly club. There really aren't that many young members.
Oh, it's an incredible club though. I mean, the members are fantastic. Like, it's a golfers club, a bit like this week at the US Open. It's a players club, so it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. It's just about, do you love golf and do you love talking about golf? And everyone's, to be honest, I've been to a lot of clubs and it's not stuffy at all. It's fantastic. Everyone's really essentially just loves the game and is very is very welcoming. From the
very
first
friendly.
moment I came in, I went to a couple of the other Sandbelt courses, and I felt like Kingston Heath it's a traditional club. It's classy, but it's also super welcoming. So, yeah, and there are some really good lads. They've got a good pennant team, and there's a good set of young lads as well. But yeah, I think we are all clubs at the moment need more juniors. Or it's just going to die out, and we really need to push that, like sports in general.
Can't wait for golf to open up. So this week it's the US Open Golf at Wingfoot over in America. Dustin Johnson's on fire. He was runner-up behind Morikawa in the US PGA. We're going to talk golf. Adam Fraser's on the show. In AFL, Collingwood are finals bound. Mike, have you found a team? Sammy barracks for Carlton. I'm a Hawk man. Who do you barrack for in AFL?
Demons.
How did you find them?
I just went for the worst. I said, who's the one that's not won the longest?
Whoa, and they didn't come up with Carlton for you?
I think Essendon are under the pump, and there's a lot of teams in the queue there. It's Tiger time at the moment. I'm surprised you didn't find the Tigers. The Tiggy train, the bandwagon's getting full. We'll talk to Cam and Dowson about how good they are. I thought the game last week was absolutely fantastic. KB slammed it. He thought the state of the game was awful last Friday night. I actually thought it was really good football. It was low scoring, but it was an absolute belter. Tom Papley's turned his back on Victoria. We mentioned that last week. He wouldn't be alone. AFL in Victoria is a state of disaster. There'll be players that just will turn their back on Victoria and go north. Dowson gave us some great tips on who he thinks will fly the coop from Melbourne. In NRL world, James Tedeschi, $6 million over 5 years, deal of a lifetime for the Roosters, and Tedeschi's futures bets are starting to roll in. Melbourne Storm, top 4, 9 out of 10 years. He's been all over them all season. And if we're looking at racing, Farnan, there's been a lot talked about his run to the Rose performance, and looking at the puntingform.com.au sectionals, it was the fastest he had ever gone to the 600 by 2.5 or just under 3 lengths. It's not grand final day, it's not fully fit, and I think Hugh Bowman deserves a little bit of leniency there. I just think Gabe presented the horse a little bit fresh. Have you got any Waterhouse mail for us, SJT? We know you're in the camp.
I don't actually. I didn't call them on that one. I thought it might be a soft spot after Gay declared it. So
She does.
But Huey did say, like, if he had his time again, he probably would have gone a little differently on it. So it might just be a case of seeing what it does next start.
Exactly. Chris Waller is on fire. I thought one of the biggest training performances of him was Hut Brun Her off 340 days. He's got a really classy-looking colt in Mo'unga. I think it's the horse to follow in spring. And then Humidor a couple of weeks ago, an 8-year-old first up to win the Feme, was fantastic. He's got very elegant. Chris Waller is the trainer to follow for the spring. And Russian Camelot, it's been done to death, and I'm not going to comment on that. We're going to talk AFL next up with Dowson, and we're going to roll into some more NRL and golf. But if you're betting this weekend with puntingform.com.au...
That's where you do all your homework, isn't it? I mean, if you want to be an informed punter, you have to use puntingform.com.au.
Did you bet the ponies, Mike, at all?
I've had terrible luck on the ponies. I once owned a horse. I was part owner, and I heard it was a superstar.
Like they all are.
There was 14 guys out in all 4 Ireland, Scotland, Wales, everywhere, London, all over the shop. And we ended up with 37 grand on it, and I think it's still running now. So.
See,
wow, he loves a bet.
punting form there.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll take a break. Up next, we'll talk AFL with Dowson.
Welcome back to Little Birdie. My name's Samantha, and I'm here with Scoot and Mikey Knowles. So we're about to talk some AFL. Who have we got on the line, Scoot?
We got Dowson, Dawson's Creek.
How are we, guys? Very excited. Last round of the year, almost finals time, but we still have some bad beats going on, Scooty. We got so I've got a couple for the punters.
Hang on, mate. You just can't roll into it. I got to do a big bad beats.
Thank you very much. We don't have to look too much further back. Our group text was lighting up with a lot of Pendle's hate the other day because the same game multiplayers were absolutely cursing Scott Pendlebury. 0 possessions in the first quarter, the first time since 2008. That's 12 years ago, and he actually recovered pretty well. He ended up on... he came back strong for the next 3 quarters, but guess what he finished on? He finished on 19 possessions, which meant the 20 possession same goal multi got blown up everywhere. I've got another couple of total points ones. Total points, Sydney, Brisbane. That under was around the 105, 107 mark. Wet, heavy conditions. 1 quarter into that one, you're feeling pretty good about life with 19 points. You're feeling even better at halftime with 33. You're feeling good at three-quarter time with 55. But guess what? 9 goals in the final quarter. They scored more points, or just about as many points in the last quarter as they did for the whole game to blow up that total points under. So that was a shocker for the punters. And lastly, I couldn't believe this one. This was the bet of the year, Scoot. We had total points over on the Cats Tigers. 96.5 it opens up at. It actually goes off at 118.5.
That's a massive
so
move.
22 points to the good. I think it's the biggest line movement in total points and maybe even game markets
without
for
a
the year.
deluge of rain. Like usually they go the other way to the, in the olden days it was under 150.5 points, but that sounds remarkable, that shift.
It's a huge move, but guess what? About all good bets of the year, it got beat. The Cats come out and play some sort of hybrid defensive Chinese checkers.
That's a great way to describe it.
For three quarters, they finally decided to have a crack in the last. It could have almost gone over if Tomer puts that one through, I reckon. It would have given them a bit of momentum, but I think that finished on about 87, 88 points, and we missed it by about 6 or 7 points. So I reckon that was probably the AFL bad beat of the year, that one. That was a shocker.
That sounds like a howler. Now, Mikey Knowles, our UK retired pro punter, it's got a nice little ring to it. What's one of your bad beats, Mikey? Tipping you got 1,000 of them.
We got a lot. We got a lot to choose from. If I had to say, I guess the worst one, it was when I started out. I only had about 500 quid, and I was just starting to trade the golf. It was 2005. The Memorial Tournament has a field of only 112, but Stan James, who were an awesome bookmaker,
they used to be good at golf prices.
So they proper laid a bet. They priced everyone up to make the cut, but they still did it as if it was a 156-man field.
Oh, wow.
So all these guys like stalwarts of the tour, like Woody Austin was even money, Skip Kendall was 11 to 10. I think you were getting VJ Sing at 2s on. So I put them all in a multi. We had everyone in the office was on it, but I'd found it, although I think Turk tries to tell me that he found it, but I definitely found it. And I had 8 of these selections, so I had 7 folds and 8 folds. It was easy. It was winning easy. I think the cut was going to be about 2 over, and everyone was 2 under or better. So the 7 guys that were 2 under or better, they were flying, and it all came down to Skip Kendall, and he had to play. Bloody Skip Kendall. He had to play his back 9 in 2 over or better, and it was there was no wind. It was playing easy. Like Jack Nicklaus is playing in the tournament, and his son is playing in the tournament. Wow. So they're not going to make the cut at that age. Well, they're obviously great players, but it was a really easy win. And all he had to do was play it 2 over. He gets to the last, and he somehow made 2 bogeys. He just needs to par it, and it's for 15 grand. This is, and I've got literally 500 quid.
500 quid in the back.
500 quid, and he gets the last hole. He's got 2 putt the last, and he ended up missing from 4 foot to cost me 15 grand at a time when literally I was
skint.
I was jumping off a train at a platform and running around the other side to Todd Street.
It's amazing. Yeah. Some of those like $200, $500, and $1,000 bets in your life are just turning points in your whole life. And I think Harry Finlay talks about them a couple of times, either on the video or in his book. Now, let's get it back to Dowson. Dowson, Papley snubbed Carlton, and after seeing their performance against the Crows, Sammy's Blues absolutely stink. Why? I wouldn't want to go to Carlton at all.
Yeah, I know Kane Corns has been really, he's been really on about the Blues, about how bad they're going. I'm not really in that camp. I'm pretty positive about the Blues. I think they play well at the MCG. They get Curnow back next year. They get another year into Walsh and Dow and Fisher. They free up some cap space with Cruiser moving on. Ben Savani, DeConning, Cottrell, Mackay. They've still got Wiedering and Cripps that are really good players. They just need a couple of their mid-tiers like O'Brien and Polton and Petrescu-Seaton. Those guys take the next step. The Blues, I know the coach said it and everyone sort of laughed at him that they weren't that far away. I think the Blues are all right. I'm not prepared to just chuck the Blues out just yet. I'm not sure anyone really had them making the finals this year. So I reckon it's about par. It's about par performance. I think for the Blues, I give them a tick for their season, and I think they'll be pushing finals next year. I think.
So if you're David Teague, who's the one player that Carlton needs?
Curnow. They need Curnow up and running first of all. But in terms of recruiting from other clubs, Oh, well, Papley would be huge for him, wouldn't they? Eddie's probably only, if he even doesn't get delisted, he's probably only going to play half the season. So someone like Papley would be awesome for them. But I don't think they're that far away, the Blues.
Was it really disappointing to see how uncompetitive they were at the start? Like, they had a huge swing late, but it just wasn't enough. Like, you can't give a team like the Crows that kind of head start.
Yeah,
Can't give
I
any
think there's
team,
something. Something's not quite right with their defensive makeup. You know, they've been scored heavily against in clumps of goals all year. So there's something not quite right there in the way that they're defending. But they'll fix that over the off-season, I'm sure. And I think the Blues will be all right next year.
Now, what else did you learn from last week? The Tigers, you've been talking them up for the last couple of weeks. They look a deadly contender.
I'm going to have to just about eat my own word. I've been laying the Tigers all year, and it's getting to a point now where I can't lay them anymore.
The tide's turned.
They're a huge problem for me. The Tigers are the team to beat. There is no doubt about that now. Coming into, you can't say coming into the September season, coming into the October final season, they're definitely the ones to knock off. They looked fantastic. Still a danger game. I know it sounds funny. Still a bit of a danger game for them going to Adelaide this week. Adelaide have been really improved in the last few weeks. So I'd love to see Adelaide knock them off, but I think the Tigers will be too strong, and it's going to take an almighty performance for someone to beat them.
And looking at this week's matches, who's your best, Dowso?
Well, I didn't like a lot early. There was a couple of big outsiders that grabbed my fancy a little bit, but probably not enough to bet with North and the Blues. But the one that got put up yesterday was the Pies. I like the Pies against Port, who don't really have much to play for. And the Pies are playing to not have to go to West Coast, which I think should be really strong motivation. And with the prize bull back in the top paddock, DeGoey, they look a completely different team. So happy to take the 10 plus for the Pies.
I think it's about 11.5 into 10.5, and I just love watching DeGoey play. He's one of the best one-on-one players in the competition, and I still think he's better than Petrarca, which I know will rub a lot of Melbourne fans up the wrong way, but I'll stay firm on that one. That's been brilliant yet again, Dowso, and we'll chat to you next week.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Now it's time to talk to Cam Dean.
How good is it to have my good mate Mike Knowles in the studio?
Hey, Cam, how you doing, mate?
This morning. Yeah, very well. Very well.
Hey, he's absolutely loving it. He said off air that, can I hear my voice in the headphones? And that's probably been the highlight of Mike's 20 minutes in the studio thus far. Now, Cam, let's talk AFL Tiger time. What a game last Friday night. You nailed it. You're all over it. What do you think about the Tigers?
They're the highest rated team in the comp now, and they're favourites for the flag, but I think they're too short. Even though I do agree that they're the best team in the comp, they're still going to have to travel either to Brisbane or to play at the Gabba against Brisbane with a home ground advantage for Brisbane, or travel to Adelaide to take on Port Adelaide in the first week of the finals. And that's if they do beat Adelaide this week. So they've still got a bit to do. And I think they're, as I said, they're the highest rating team, but I think they're way too short for the flag. So I wouldn't be going near them.
Interesting you say that about their pricing. Richmond's firmed from $4 into $3.60 after their big win on last Friday. And One Sharp Puncher's had $3,000 on Port to win the flag at $7 on Sunday.
Probably Cam. Now, Cam, Geelong were conservative with their ball use. It was like Chinese checkers, Dowse said. KB wants lower rotations. What's going on?
Yeah, it was really. I was frustrated with Geelong's style of play. They were very conservative and they didn't get brave until the last quarter, and it didn't make sense to me. Like, it was obvious after 4-1 and then even at least half time, so they weren't going to win the game playing that style of footy. And it wasn't until the last quarter they said, "All right, let's be brave with our ball movements," which was A, pretty annoying because of the spectacle, but B, because I was on the overs, so I was probably a little bit disappointed on that one. So I had some vested interest. But, it's interesting. Like, obviously, KB, he saw that as a game to highlight his frustrations with the state of the game. But, again, he wants to just reduce rotations. I don't see how that would change the style of that game and improve the spectacle, because they're still going to play that style. They might even play it more to conserve more energy. So it's an interesting point from KB, but I don't agree with it.
And I sort of touched on the power of the early crow last week, and I said how well you've been doing from a futures perspective. And Lachie Neale, all of a sudden, a big tackle, he nearly gets rubbed out of Brownlow contention. I could stop Christmas, couldn't I?
Yeah, I know. That would have been an absolute killer. Interesting, that sling tackle. You got Blakey, and I think Blakey had a sore shoulder, so he was protecting it. So he didn't put his arm out to protect himself, so it made it look worse than what it was. So I would have been very disappointed if he got rubbed out for that.
And looking ahead this week, angles and best for this week, North Melbourne play the West Coast Eagles Thursday night.
Yeah, I don't know whether I want to get involved in that game. It's hard to know what West Coast are going to do. With regards to, I don't think percentage really helps them, and it's the last round, and they're away from home. And North have been going terribly. Otherwise, I probably would want to be on the plus. So I'm sort of going to stay out of that one. There's some interesting games out there, like St Kilda are playing GWS, and they need to win to avoid West Coast in the finals, and that will have ramifications on some of the other games. So probably if I was looking for leans this week, I'm pretty keen on Port Adelaide, as I think Dowson may have mentioned in the segment before. On Collingwood. Port Adelaide are away from home last round. They don't need to win to hold top 2 spot. We hope they do for the minor premiership, but I just think that plus there for Collingwood is quite attractive. And the other game that I was eyeballing was the Carlton plus Cade Simpson's send-off game. I know the Blues haven't been going great, but Brisbane, again, they don't really need to win this game to finish top 2. It may be dependent, though, whether or not they want to sort of avoid Richmond in that first week of the finals. But I still think the Blues there at the plus 25 are pretty decent.
And what about, you've been tipping Port Adelaide minor premiership. They're clear on percentage only. Do you encourage people to hedge out of that position or have a saver anyway?
For some of the prices I saw around earlier in the week, I would, because of the nature of this game, and you might want to wait until you've seen all the other games play out.
Okay.
Because they're the last game, so you then know that whether Collingwood are playing to avoid West Coast as a final, or whether Port are playing to avoid Richmond in a final, which I think if Port had no choice, they'd probably play Geelong in a final rather than Richmond. So you might want to wait until all the other games are played out and see what their motivation is. And if you think the motivation is not there for that team, for Port, then hedge out.
Wise words. Yet again, when to bet is one of the most important things. You got any curveballs or you got any dirt on Cam Dean while he's on the line?
Oh, he's done well to get down the coast, hasn't he? He's got no regulations from tomorrow. He's picked that one right. That's for sure.
I just listened to Mike Knowles, Build Your Incredible, control the controllables, and I'm just controlling the controllables.
You definitely control them very well.
Oh, wow.
Oh, SJT. Righto, Cam, we'll let you get back to the surf and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Cam. Good luck. Up next, we've got Top Rope Tedeschi time. Nick Tedeschi talking Hall of Fame and Rugby League.
But if you wanted to take advantage of any of those tips we got in the AFL this weekend, make sure you head to topsport.com.au. They are betting even money lines, which is just incredibly generous. Wow. To win up to $200, so make sure you jump on and check it out. But always make sure you're staking according to your own position and what you can do. So if you're concerned about yourself or a loved one, head to Gamblers Helpline on 1-800-858-858. Welcome back. It's Little Birdie you're listening to, and it's my favourite time in the show. It's Hall of Fame.
With Top Rope Tedeschi.
Wonderful to be here. It's look, we got some feedback on the Hall of Fame last week. Wolfie was excited. The Wolf up and about after being put in the Hall of Fame.
It's been a big 3 weeks for the Hall of Fame. We've had Seabold, Jamal Murray and the William Hill Wolf, who's somehow survived in this great game of betting. Who have you got in the firing line this week, Top Rope?
Look, it's US Open week, and so we've naturally got to go to the golf. And normally you get into the Hall of Fame by performing an act that you've already performed an act that has won some money. This week we're going prevention. It's defence first this week, and we are going to Benny Arn, one of the worst putters on the PGA Tour. There was a song written about him saying Benny Arn putts like he's got a glass eye. And this week someone on Twitter went out with my only bets for the US Open: Ben Arn win, Ben Arn top 5, Ben Arn top 10. Benny has fired straight back, has responded. He goes, "Good luck with that. I just played my practice round on the back 9, shot 8 over." So he's given fair warning. We're not backing Benny this week. And so well done to Benny. You're in the Hall of Fame.
Benny in the Hall of Fame. Mikey Knowles is on fire in here. He's, I think he's potting Jack Nicklaus early. So
I just want to. I definitely. He's my absolute hero, and the only reason I said that is because he was 65 in that tournament, and I did actually
this is in 2005.
I still did back him to make the cut at 5-1 that tournament. But.
We're talking bad beats.
Talk about shooting Bambi.
No, I love Jack Nicklaus. He's the best in the world. So I take it all back.
Now, top rope. Let's talk NRL first. Melbourne Storm top 4, 9 out of 10 years. All of your purple futures bets are starting to cruise to the line. What's happening in the futures markets?
Yeah, the Storm are doing what they do every year. I've pretty much built a retirement fund out of the Storm finishing in the top 4, and here they go again. So, unfortunately, they're going to fall a little short. They've been beaten by an historic Panthers team to win the minor premiership. Unless, of course, the Panthers suffer 2 shock upsets, including to bottom place Canterbury next week. But they are absolutely cruising. The Raiders, who I like for the top 4, they are chances sneaking in. They'll need a Parramatta loss over the next 2 weeks, and the Eels don't have a hard run in. Still a hope there. And the Knights making the top 8. So that's the good news. Those who jumped on the Cowboys to make the 8, well, you were gone a long time ago. So very expensive exercise.
Now, James Tedeschi, $6 million over 5 years. Deal of a lifetime for the Roosters?
Oh, that is the biggest unders of all time. It might officially be $6 million over 5 years. I'd love to know what he's really on. Uncle Nick and his salary cap sombrero, he's probably on $12 million over 5 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way he has signed $6 million for 5 years. That is one of the biggest fallacies in the game. He will be earning plenty.
Now, our man Mikey Knowles is from Halifax, Yorkshire lad.
Yorkshire.
Got that right.
God's country.
UK Rugby League versus Australian. I don't want to start a little turf war here, but tell us the difference, Mike, between the styles of the game and what have you noticed between UK NRL and Rugby League here, Rugby League?
I think the first thing to say, obviously, there's a lot more money in the Australian game, and that translates to deeper squads. So a lot of time when you first... there was all sorts of times where they were only left with like 2 or 3 props in the matches, and so you were picking in guys on debuts and all sorts. But I felt as though the biggest difference in quality, and if you were going to rate NRL versus Super League, you normally have NRL maybe 14 points higher or 16 points higher. You know, if obviously the World Challenge is a bit different, but it all came down to game management and really the kicking from the halfbacks. I feel as though Super League, in terms of conditioning, probably not much difference in terms of the forwards, in terms of their ability to wrestle or the defensive systems. I don't think there's a lot of difference, but the quality of kicking and having different players in your team that can kick and using different kicks at different points to manage the game. A lot of times in Super League, it's 24 all with 8 minutes to go, and it's like they've never been in that position before. They don't seem to understand, or they're not on top of scenario planning where they'll be so good in NFL. They just don't know what they're going to do when they're drawing or a point ahead. Whereas you come over here, someone like Cam Smith's just going to be grubbering in the corner. He's going to just take control. And I don't think it would take much. Obviously, the guys that have come over have done great. The Birdie brothers, Josh Hodgson, Sam Williams is starting to good. John Bateman's doing good. So the players can easily do it. The quality's there. The class is there. They just need that halfback training, and we've just not really produced that many great halfbacks in the last sort of 10, 15 years in the UK, to be honest.
Top rope, are you singing from the same hymn book?
No, I absolutely love watching Super League, and I completely agree from a forwards point of view. The best forwards have played in the NRL over the last kind of 15, 20 years. Tougher than being Englishmen, like Sam Burgess, James Graham, back to Adrian Morley. The difference between the English game and the Australian game is very much, like you say, the halves and a defence focus. But it's just the depth. If you put all the best English players into say 4 clubs, they could easily compete with every NRL side week in, week out. Absolutely, I have no doubt at all about that. If they were season like that, the problem is that talent is spread reasonably thinly across the competition, and so there are a lot of games that are blowouts that you just don't get the 60, 70 point blowouts in the NRL that you do in Super League sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially towards the back end of a season when, say, Hull Car are on the road to a red hot St Helens. For the Stars. So.
Yeah, and that's so true. And in many ways, Super League's more exciting because it is headless chicken sometimes, and you get some incredible finishes where you get 3 tries back to back. It's just going all over the place. And from
it's an amazing game to watch.
Oh,
from an entertainment point of view, like it is so open, so free flowing. The advantage rule over there, is tremendous and creates some really exciting stuff. Like it's a tremendous product, and one of the great sadnesses I had when I went over to the UK was how really regionalised it is. Like I for the life of me cannot believe how idiotic Londoners could go and watch rugby union and care about that when they've got this wonderful product on their back doorstep. Going up to Langtree Park or wherever up is just one of the great treats. I went to a Good Friday game between Wigan and St Helens.
Oh, the atmosphere
5 or 6 years ago. The atmosphere is unbelievable. It's as good as anything you'll get.
Or if you go to a Hull derby as well, it's just it's pretty much the M62 corridor. It's just Yorkshire, Lancashire.
Maybe PVL could learn a thing or two from the UK rugby, make it more entertaining and more digestible game for here.
Yeah, the one thing they keep on doing
it's a pretty entertaining and digestible game relative to what else we've got on offer here. Cough Australian rules.
It's great for betting on as well, Super League, because you do get like thin squads. You get all sorts of angles where, like, if a few key players go down, it can, and then you get obviously teams that have not got much to play for near the back end of the season. So you do get some really good blowouts, and you get a lot of shocks as well. So it's a good thing to bet on for sure.
Speaking of angles and blowouts,
bet against Catalans every time they come to England. Bet against English time every time they go to France.
Now, speaking of angles, let's talk round 19. The Bunnies and the Bulldogs Thursday night, ANZ Stadium. Sammy, odds?
Oh well, Rabbitohs are the absolute favourites here. They're 16.5-point favourites. They're $1.10 if you want to back them, and Canterbury Bulldogs are $7.
Top rep.
They got to win at some point, don't they?
I've been saying that all year. It's been a rough old run. The numbers dictate the Bulldogs are probably a bet here. They get Luke Thompson back. They've covered 14 of 15 as an underdog at ANZ of 6.5 or more over the last 5 years. So, by all intents and purposes, they should win, and I'll have a small bit on them. But South have an ability to blow teams out, and Canterbury look like they've tossed the towel in. So, I'll take some heart that English forward Luke Thompson's back for the Bulldogs and might add a bit of toughness and steel to them, but I'll lean towards the plus, but not with a great deal of confidence.
High or low scoring game, do you think?
High.
Normally the South Bulldogs games are a low scoring game, and normally I would be very much on the under. But this time of year, points are flowing pretty freely. The Dogs couldn't stop a little Birdie backline from scoring 3 tries. So I think that there will be plenty of points this one.
And next best for the rest of the week, top rope?
Very keen on the Gold Coast to upset Manly down in Brookvale. They've won 7 straight against teams outside the 8. They've kind of finally found a bit of steel, a bit of toughness. The new coach has done a good job down there. So I think they can beat Manly, even with Tom Trbojevic potentially back. And the last game of the round, I'm all over the Dragons plus 8.5. Real good angle here. Favourites are 4 or more of conceding 30. Covered 25 of 77 going back the last 5 seasons. So I am all over the Dragons in this spot.
Huge. So Gold Coast plus and St George plus. Get it at top spot. We'll wrap it up there, top rope, and we'll talk to you next week, and we'll start to work our way into the finals with one more week to go of NRL following this one. Thanks, mate.
Good luck this week, Tim.
Yeah, cheers, Nick.
Sammy, if you're betting this week, why are you betting with Top Sport?
Well, they've got the same amazing special that they're offering with the AFL on the NRL. So you can get $2 lines.
No commission.
That means no margin for them. $2 lines to win up to $200. So make sure you gamble responsibly, of course, and call 1-800-858-858 if you are concerned.
Up next, we're going to talk golf, the US Open with Big Daddy.
I want money.
Welcome back to Little Birdie. My name's Samantha Todd. I love this song. And we are welcoming in the one and only Big Daddy to talk some golf, aren't we, boys?
How are we all?
Big Daddy, you've been in hiatus the last couple of weeks. You're nice and fresh. That's where I think you'd be your deadliest. Now, the US Open Golf this week at Winged Foot, it looks incredible. I had a look at some footage on Golf Digest, and the rough is so long. You can get a Guinness can, one of those big 440ml cans, and it can disappear in the rough. It is so thick and so deadly. Now, Scotty Scheffler withdrawn due to COVID positive. That's almost sick beat of the week. The bloke is just starting to hum, and now he's out of the tournament. Now, just from the sidebar, I need to mention it. Last week on the show, we had Daniel Bowman, racehorse trainer, who now rates himself as a part-time professional golf punter. His tips, let's get him out of the way. Xander to finish top 5 and Rahm top rest of the world. Dan, I hope you can train racehorses. Now, Big Daddy, what do you make of the course?
Oh, mate, it is going to be brutal. Jeff Ogilvy won there the last time it was played in 2006. It was tough then. I could see the winning score. Well, out of the US Opens they've held there, not often have they shot under par. So most of the time it's going to be, and you see this generally in the US Open, that the winning score very rarely gets double digits under par. They struggle to even break par, to be honest. I think the way the course is set up this week, from what I'm reading, we could see a winning score, par or worse. So it could be over par.
What do you think about that, Aussie?
Yeah, when Jeff Ogilvy won, it was +5, and they called it the Massacre of Winged Foot. Back in, I think the highest winning score for a long time at +7, and the average on the final day was 75 shots when Mickelson blew up. So yeah, it's definitely if it's anything like that, it'll be really tough.
At Little Birdie Pod, we've tweeted a couple of days ago the flyover from Golf Digest. It is unbelievable course. It's tight. The bunkers are everywhere. It looks impossible. I think I'd probably go around about 130 and I'd be beaten, defeated, and I'd probably need 3 months to get over it. Now, you've been beating up on Jordan Spieth lately, Big Daddy. Who are you going to beat up on this week at Winged Foot? Who's not going to be suited at all?
I know he's been in sensational form. And DJ, look, he has been absolutely flying. The only thing that I think could hold DJ back this week is he's 118th in fairways hit off the tee. So
wow.
you need length and accuracy. And if he's not finding the fairways in the deep rough, all he's going to be doing is hacking out, and he's going to struggle to score. I think Ram, he's been playing very well. He's got a much better driving accuracy percentage than DJ. I think he's a little bit more of a threat this week. Someone that's just completely gone under the radar that I can't believe that the market really hasn't got onto him as much. He led the stroke averages last year. He's won a US Open before. He hits a lot of fairways. He's probably not one of the longest guys on tour, which holds him back, but he's had 11 top 20 finishes out of 15 starts on tour. Webb Simpson is a guy that could just pop up this week, I think. He's one that I've been watching for a little while, and he's just, since he changed his putting style a couple of years ago, he's just been so consistent.
Sammy, price, Webb Simpson?
Webb Simpson's sitting around the $22 mark.
Wow.
Yeah, Xander's been the best back so far.
30's into $22, and John Ram is vying for favouritism, so there's a little bit of a knock on DJ. You been watching much golf lately, Mike?
I watched wall to wall the PGA.
Yep.
This one's going to be very different. Like Jack Nicklaus, my legend, said that the golf course gets hard on the first tee and then doesn't get any easier. So I think you're not going to find your form at this place. You're going to turn up with everything firing, accuracy. You need your irons, wedge distance on point, and then you apparently need an unbelievable short game. And then the greens when you get on are like Augusta-like. I remember when last time Mickelson, he doubled the last, and I was actually trading it, and Jeff Ogilvy was already in the clubhouse. And Mickelson went left, and to that pin, it was basically short-sided. Like, there was no chance of him even leaving it on the green. And I think Jeff Ogilvy, when they went to that bunker, was 1.4, and Mickelson couldn't even hit the green. So it was like, watch out for that pin. If anyone goes left late, if it's that Sunday pin, it could be completely short-sided for sure.
Thoughts, Big Daddy?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with that. I think a guy like Bryson was playing well. He has gone off a little bit just recently in the last sort of 5 tournaments, which I've put a little bit of emphasis on current form. The other thing that's holding Bryson back is 140th in fairways hit.
So erratic.
he's erratic off the tee, and this is not the event you want to be erratic off the tee. So I'm a little bit cautious with Bryson. A guy that is very, very consistent. Look, he's yet to contend a major, but he's a sort of player that you wouldn't mind having a couple of match bets on, or maybe even a top 20, is Harris English. Harris English has had 13 top 20 finishes from 20 starts. He's very, very consistent, and I think he matches up pretty good in a match bet this week against Louis Oosthuizen. Mm-hmm. And I think Webb matches up very good against Bryson DeChambeau in a match bet. And I'm happy. I think Rory's been a little bit out of form. I'm happy to take Rahm against Rory in a match bet as well.
Yeah, Rory's swinging like me. He chunked one a couple of weeks ago, and
he's just had a kid as well, so
yeah,
that's got to be a factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sammy?
And look,
Harris to make
awesome.
top 20 is $3.50, so that's a bet, is it?
Nice little bit of meat on the bone. Harris English to make top 20 at $3.50 with topspot.com.au.
Yeah, considering he's had so many top 20s this year, I think that he's definitely averaging better than even money, so that seems value to me.
Sammy, you tipping top Tiger again, Sammy?
I'm staying way out of this.
Too hard basket.
Yeah, this is absolutely the too hard basket.
I think Tiger's out of form at the moment. I wouldn't be going near Tiger at the moment, Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, he matches up against, on Top Sport, I was just having a look at it as you guys rang. He matches up against Todd in a match bet, and normally I'd be opposing Steve, but I'm not a huge fan of Todd either, so I can't really. I was hoping to have a good match bet against Steve, but yeah, I don't know with Todd. I'm not sure.
Thanks, Big Daddy. We might check in via Twitter at the halfway point of the tournament, but thanks for your analysis. It is spot on yet again, and if anyone was following last time in the USPGA, he absolutely killed him. Thanks, Big Daddy.
All right. Okay. Have a good week, guys. See ya.
That's all we've got time for on Little Birdie Podcast. Just wrapping up Big Daddy's bets there. He likes Webb Simpson and Harris English and play them in the head-to-heads. I think John Rahm is his lean over DJ, which is interesting. The stat about DJ is fascinating, 118th on driving accuracy. And if you've seen those, the rough at Winged Foot, it looks absolutely diabolical. Mike, what was your favourite bit of the show? What's been the highlight of the show?
Oh, I loved it. Very professional, funny, enjoyable. Yeah, I'll be back anytime for sure. And
if people want to find you, it's Build Your Incredible. If they punch that into Facebook, Build Your Incredible for your high performance stuff. Yeah, Build Your Incredible or Mikey Knowles 1 on Insta, and just send me a DM. Slide in. Yeah, slide in, and you can say how are you taking down Jack Nicklaus, the greatest of them all. Well, I didn't mean it, so whatever. We won't hang you for it. Sammy, favourite part of the show?
Has to be Mikey Knowles.
Mikey Knowles, on debut.
Yeah.
Man from
Great
Kingston
part of the
Beach.
show, and I always love getting a chance to chat to some pro punters as well, because it takes a particular type of mindset. I think it's fascinating that you've moved into high performance coaching. The two marry so well.
Yeah, I think because I wasn't that bothered, I think it helped me a lot. So yeah, sure.
That's all we've got time for on Little Birdie Podcast. Head to our website, www.littlebirdiepod.com, or subscribe to our YouTube channel, Little Birdie Pod, or catch us on SEN.
To keep my hands on myself.